Acho, how much pressure is on Doc to finish off the Raptors? Good.
You could tell by his response how much pressure's on him.
Yeah, damn.
Because the pressure getting. I wish y'all would tell the whole story. That's how much pressure is on Doc. All the pressure is on Doc Rivers to finish out and close out this series, and hopefully he gets it done in 6. Here is why. I think if Doc doesn't close out this series, then Doc's greatness with the Celtics will finally be undermined in totality.
Wow.
We always look back at Doc winning a chip with the Celtics, but in my mind, though I love Doc Rivers as a human being, I believe Doc Rivers is a career underachiever as a coach.
Ooh.
Doc, you could not take the Clippers with Lob City to the Western Conference Finals. You could not take the Clippers with PG and Kawhi to the Western Conference Finals. You depart and they instantly go to the finals. Doc, I'm starting to catch on to you, man. Because though you won a chip in Boston, you only won one. I say only because when you have a team comprised of some of the greatest players in history, we see multiple chips won. LeBron James, D. Wade, Chris Bosh. When you have a team comprised of some of the greatest players in NBA history, we see multiple chips won. Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson. But Doc Rivers, you only won one. So if Doc Rivers doesn't close out this series, we're really going to focus in on the fact that he is the greatest choking head coach in big games in the history of the sport. And that is not fair to Doc Rivers, but unfortunately, his resume precedes him. So Doc got all the pressure on him, and he knows it as well.
Ooh.
So the pressure is so high right now on Doc Rivers that he is revising history. He asked us to tell the whole story about him. Well, I was there for it all, so I am happy to tell you, and I will try to make it quick.
Please.
He won his Coach of the Year award as a rookie coach for going 41-41 with the Orlando Magic and failing to make the playoffs. There were two teams, Milwaukee and Detroit. They went 42-40. He lost to one of that Milwaukee team the second to last game of the season. 41-41. I'm assuming that all the votes went in early. But how, we take issue with Nikola Jokic winning MVP and not going very far in the playoffs. How do you win Coach of the Year and your team doesn't even make the playoffs? I don't even know it doesn't matter who you're coaching. I didn't vote for him that year, obviously. That Orlando team that lost 3-1, and he said, we were the 8th seed and we played against a Pistons team that won the championship. They won the championship the next year. And they won that championship only after they acquired Rasheed Wallace. Going into that year that they blew the 3-1 series, the Detroit Pistons were the #1 seed, but they were considered to be weaker than the New Jersey Nets, the loaded Jason Kidd, Kenyon Martin, Richard Jefferson, New Jersey Nets, which is why Doc sat Tracy McGrady the last game of the season so that they would lose to the Milwaukee Bucks so that they would face those Detroit Pistons rather than the #2 seeded New Jersey Nets. And then, if you look at the two teams, Ben Wallace was probably arguably the best player on the Detroit Pistons team. He had a bad ankle coming in that series. Yet another reason why Orlando wanted to tank and avoid New Jersey. Thought they would have an easier way with Detroit, which they did through the beginning of that. Why did they? Because they had the best player in the series. There was only one All-NBA first-team player in that series, and that was Tracy McGrady, who led the league in scoring that year. Prime Tracy McGrady. It's why they were able to go up 3-1. And the one weakness the Detroit Pistons had was that they couldn't score. And yet, they averaged 91 a game during the regular season. They scored 98, 102, and 108 in the last 3 games of that series to win it. I could go to the Clippers series. I'm sure that Marcellus knows all about that. The Chris Paul, he didn't play. He only missed 2 games. Yeah, he missed the first 2 games when they were 1-1. He played the last 5, including the 3 that you lost.
It wasn't Blake's fault.
And then we want to go to the bubble. Montrezl Harrell was out of shape. Lou Williams couldn't play. You still played them. I'm sorry, Doc. Your hands, your foot, your fingerprints are all over every single one of these 3-1 losses. So for you to say, hey, tell the whole story about me, I am more than happy to. but I don't really think it was what you were after.
I'm here for you, Doc. I'm here, man. Golly. Yes, there's pressure on Doc Rivers. Yes, but is he a perpetrator? No, and we're going to get to that later. First, let's talk about this pressure. Doc Rivers, I have never coached in my life until this year, maybe a month and a half into my coaching tenure. I know what you're feeling, big dog. You look and sound like a guy who has some sleepless nights scripting about this moment right here, being prepared for this moment right here. And I had sleepless nights after my first game when it gets said in the Cleveland Browns. I told y'all this story before. I got to remind y'all. They beat us 42-6. They beat us so bad we couldn't even get the extra point, y'all. It was real out there. And I stayed up ready for the moment I had to address my team. Doc Rivers now knows he has to address his team because his team knows that Doc Rivers comes in with a reputation that precedes him, and it's not so positive, up 3-1 in a series. That said, I know how you feel, Doc Rivers. You're sitting there like, I want to explain this situation. Yeah, you can't do that, Doc. You know these are the breaks. That's how it goes as a player, and that's how it goes as a coach. Nobody wants to hear all those excuses because they sound useless. That said, oh, Acho, I need to see your face. I know who Doc is. You ain't got to show me. That's who I am. I need to see Acho because you kind of went there without going there, but I think you went there. You probably went past there. You called him a perpetrator. And Doc, you are guilty of reminding people of one of your weaknesses, which is being up in the series. You're guilty of that, but everything else you're innocent of. This is why I don't believe in champions just broadly. You know why? Because every champion tells me two things. One, this is why you win a championship, because they can't take it back from you. They can't say anything to you once you get it. And then Acho gonna come up here retroactively and want to say that if Doc Rivers loses this series, all of a sudden we got to go all the way back to what, 2008? And undermine what's already written in stone. That's what I don't get about champions. What's the point of winning it all and then somebody gonna come back and start to look at it differently than what you achieved? So Acho, you didn't call him a perpetrator, but you said every other word that was synonymous to perpetrator. Please explain yourself.
I don't think that you can't take away what Doc did historically, but what you can do is understand who Doc is. That's what I'm trying to do, Sal. We look at Doc Rivers and we say, man, he won a championship. But I simply say, one championship? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that is you coach some of the greatest players the game has ever seen. Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. I ain't even talking about T-Mac Slick. I'm talking about greatest players the game has ever seen, and multiple of them on the same team at the same time. And you have one chip to show for it? KG? Paul Pierce? We talking bench warmers, and the fourth best player on the team is Rondo in his prime. The fourth best player on the team was Rondo in his prime. And you have one chip to show for it? For me, Sal, I no longer look at that rather as an overachievement or even achievement, but an underachievement. And the same manner in which we look at Aaron Rodgers. And you say, Aaron Rodgers, you're so great and have only been to one Super Bowl? Like, disregard how many you have won. You're that great and have only been to one. Slick, I know you're familiar with football, so I do not mind having this conversation. Peyton Manning, as great as he is, went to several. Tom Brady, as great as he is, went to several. Joe Montana, as great as he is, went to several. Patrick Mahomes, as great and still as young as he is, has been to a couple. But Aaron Rodgers, in all your greatness, you've only been to one. You can't take away that one, but what you can do and say, man, as great as Aaron Rodgers is, he sure didn't amount to much greatness collectively. So what I'm saying with Doc Rivers, Sal, is not taking away the one, but I'm saying, Doc, as many greats as you coached historically, you only won one chip? It just doesn't add up to me, Sal. KD, LeBron, Akeem, Shaq, Duncan, Kobe, Magic, Kareem, all of those greats we debated yesterday, multiple titles, because that's what greats do. Win multiple titles. And even if not Jerry West, at least he went to 9. I understand he only won one, but at least he went to 9. But Doc Rivers, you only won one, and then with the Clippers, the same Clippers that Ty Lue and his young coaching self to the finals? You couldn't take to the finals in all of your wisdom and glory? Nah, Sel, I'm not going to take away the title, but I am going to furthermore understand who Doc Rivers is.
Yeah, to continue your comparison with Aaron Rodgers, we think of Aaron Rodgers and the numbers, and we think Aaron Rodgers is a championship caliber quarterback. Do we not? Like we just immediately connect that because of the great individual things that he's done. I believe that's the way we look at Doc Rivers. We've looked at him since he won that ring in Boston Celtics, that he is a championship coaching, championship caliber coach. That if you think that you have a team that is primed to play for a championship, well, now you just need to go get that guy who can direct them there, who can take them the last mile. That's the assumption that we made as a result of what happened in Boston. And what Doc Rivers has been proving ever since is that maybe it was Paul Pierce and Rajon Rondo and KG and Ray Allen that took them the last mile. That it wasn't that Doc Rivers was a championship caliber coach. It was that he happened to be the coach of a championship caliber team in that particular year. Because he's had multiple opportunities since then where the regular season records look good, where the talent looks like it's primed to make it happen. But then you get, and even to the point where you're up in a series 3-1 to get you to the next step. And yet you don't get there. And I'm sorry, Marcellus, but when you're up 3-1 in a series and you have 3 cracks at getting one more win, and you can't bring it home, and yet you had the horses to win 3,
that's a good
somebody
point.
ain't making the right decisions.
That's a good point.
Somebody ain't playing the right rotations. Somebody ain't giving them the right minutes or calling the right plays, because clearly you have the requisite talent to get there, and it's not being finished.
Let's talk. We're having this conversation at different vantage points, therefore it's coming out differently, and it's coming out respectfully. I like that. The NBA was started, they say, 1946 with 11 teams. Now, obviously, 75 years later, plus we have 30 teams. You know how many NBA coaches have won a championship? By my bad numbers and research, I found 34. There's 2 conversations that spur off of that, because Doc Rivers is one of those 34. 34 in 75 years, 34. You know how many coaches there have been? I don't know. Let's say thousands. 1,000. Tell me if Jerry Sloan, George Karl, Don Nelson, Hubie Brown were great coaches. Everyone would say yes. Were they championship coaches? No. So whatever you think of them, you better think another notch higher for Doc Rivers. I read once that most people look at success the wrong way. They look at success as an expectation, like, oh my God, that person is successful. And then you start to say, well, why didn't they win more? Why didn't they do more? Instead of what you should be looking at as success is not an expectation, but it's an anomaly. Just to get anything is something in this world, let alone a championship, which is a large part out of Doc Rivers' control, because he doesn't cross the lines and get on the court. As I showed you, hundreds, if not thousands of coaches, and some of them great their own selves, who did not ever get to where Doc Rivers got to. So I'm not going to sit up here and let y'all talk about Doc Rivers like he ain't a made man. You got to put some respect on Doc Rivers' name. Even if there's another letdown, that won't erase